Bill Shorten, Christopher Pyne, welcome back.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Bill Shorten, to you first. Almost no one predicted a win on this scale. What happened?
I think Anthony Albanese ran the campaign of his life, and Paul Erickson, the Labor campaign director, was just on top of his game at the right time. But also I think that Peter Dutton and the Coalition conclusively ran the worst campaign ever in federal history, in the history of federal elections. They were a shocker.
Christopher Pyne, I think I better bring you there, decked out as you are in sackcloth and ashes. Was it the worst campaign ever, or was it the policies? Was it the leader? What was it?
Well, the undecideds obviously all broke as a group for the Labor Party in the last few days or the last week of the campaign. It was the worst result since 1943 for the non-Labor side of politics. We've never held less than a third of the seats in the House of Representatives, and the campaign, despite all the my best efforts to paint it in the positive light over the previous 5 weeks. Now I think the election's over, I can say I think the campaign itself left a lot to be desired. When you don't win elections by pushing people away, you win elections by bringing people to you. And I think things like the work from home policy, the sacking of 41,000 public servants, these were all kind of bizarre announcements that obviously resonated very poorly in the electorate.
Just staying with you, Christopher, how do you get a campaign with such what look like now obvious mistakes in them?
Look, it's a very good question. I mean, our polling was obviously completely off the beam, because I was talking to people in the last week of the campaign and 10 days before who gave me completely different polling results than what happened on election night. Now, maybe it was because of the undecideds breaking. I'm sure that's what the pollsters will say. But I think the Liberal Party has a lot of work to do on the post-mortem for this election campaign itself, quite apart from the fact that they have to learn again how to be the party of aspiration, because voters turned away from us in huge numbers.
Now, Bill Shorten, I'm not sure it's exactly right that all the undecideds broke for Labor and that's what did it. Watching as such a seasoned, experienced campaigner yourself, what were you seeing?
First of all, I just need to do a little welfare check on Chris, so I'm just sending you, this is a little first aid kit. I just want to make sure you're okay, Chris.
I'm okay.
Well, good on you. I hope you would be.
I was going to say I've been through worse, but I'm not sure I have, actually.
No, I don't think you have.
No. Anyway, in all seriousness, I couldn't understand last year when the Coalition came out against the HECS debt reduction for people who've got university degrees. They just wrote off votes there. They just said we didn't want you. It was just... And I also, with the nuclear policy, if you really believe it, they didn't back it in. And I, rightly or wrongly, when I took some tax reforms to 2019, you've got to back it in. Because if you don't even look like you believe it, and the critics are saying it's a bad idea. So they were laying some of the seeds. And whilst, you know, there was a lot of economic hardship out there with families and mortgages, I think I always had this nagging concern, even when I was in Parliament, that the Coalition was just hoping to ride a wave of grievance, but they weren't doing any of their own work. They rolled out their policies so late. I mean, they said they wanted to go to 3% of GDP on defence. They just sort of issued that one out, you know, like as a little farewell gift as you're leaving the party, like a bit of birthday cake for the kids when they're going home.
Christopher Pyne, can I bring you in on the birthday cake? Obviously a former Defence Minister yourself. When you see a giant policy with a couple of flimsy pages and not much detail, how did you respond to that?
I think the two most important positives that the Coalition always beats Labor on are national security and the economy. I think on the economy, we quite correctly identified cost of living as the grievance. But as I said weeks ago, the public then say, and what are you going to do about it? So that we didn't actually make the second part of that argument as well as we needed to do. And on defence, I'm all in favour of increasing spending on defence by $21 billion, but we needed to be explaining to people what we were going to spend it on, and we should have been doing that 5 weeks ago, not 10 days ago. And these things are, in hindsight, we didn't say them at the time, but these are obvious clangers that that the Liberal Party dropped, and the public reacted accordingly, and they've sent us a very important message. And if the Liberal Party doesn't learn that message, it'll happen again.
Was it a series of campaign clangers, as you described them, or a failure to appeal to a broad swathe of Australian voters?
Oh, no, campaign clangers are only a symptom of a much more deeper malaise, which is that the Liberal Party needs to learn again that you win elections by tacking to the centre. Centre-right in our case, centre-left in Labor's case. But you can't make the voters move to you on the political spectrum. You actually have to fish where the fishes are. There's no point in saying to the voters, you're wrong about that, you need to move to the right. Or in the case of the left, you need to move to the left, because they say, we don't actually, and we're not going to. So the Liberal Party needs to understand that if they're going to win elections, they have to say and do things that the public want.
Now, Bill Shorten, just before we move on to what the future looks like, you've obviously been through a lot of campaigns. You said before you were waiting to see, is this the week the Liberals get their act together? But just against all the campaigns you've seen, where does this one sit from the Liberal side?
Listen, I'm not. Obviously, I've got my values, and you know, the Labor movement's part of who I am. But objectively, it was a really poor campaign. There were, you know, technical things. I think their ad campaign, their TV ads were pretty Scheissenhausen. I think their message never became clear. But I think it goes to that deeper malaise. The Liberal Party has sort of perched itself out on a sort of a right-wing branch. If you're an immigrant, a lot of immigrants said to me they don't really think that the Liberal Party wants them here. If you're a public servant, clearly you're on a hit list. If you're a woman working part-time, trying to balance the budget, work from home, well, they didn't want you. And if you're born after 1981, there was nothing for young people in their policies. So the Liberal Party, I say, is a bit, to be honest, they're out of touch. When you sit in the Parliament and you see them, they're like a rank of grey suits, just blokes in grey suits, where the Liberal Party in the Parliament at the moment thinks diversity is wearing a different coloured tie, quite literally. No, I think the Liberals need to tack to the centre, and I think Anthony Albanese has got Labor as a centre party, and congratulations to him. His campaign was good. To some extent, the poorness of the Liberal campaign's masking the success and the sensible messaging of the Labor campaign. It took two things to win.
Christopher Pyne, what is the way back? Have you been too far to the right?
Well, the way back is to get in touch with the Australian people and understand that post-COVID, Australia is a very different place. And we have different working arrangements, different technologies, different expectations, different sense of community, and that you win elections by putting together alliances of like-minded people. The only group that Bill left out of the people that we seem to be targeting was the Chinese community, who
that's true.
Who are at least 1 million voters, if not more.
Right.
And while we weren't racist about Chinese people, certainly, you know, we cast a suspicion over Chinese, or they felt that we were casting a suspicion over Chinese people because of our comments about the mainland China, because the People's Republic of China. And I don't disagree about a lot of the things that were said about China versus the United States and the challenge of China to the US. But there's a way of saying things that people will agree with, and there's a way of saying things that make people feel like we're not for you. And, you know, public servants was a good example, but just the Chinese community, so seats like Banks and Chisholm, they were just pushed out of our reach.
Christopher Pyne, who's the right person to lead the Liberals out of the wilderness?
Well, I'm talking to my former colleagues, Sarah, as you can imagine, about what they think and what I think, but I'm not going to give them a public lecture. That will only push votes away from the person that I think is the best to lead the party now.
And
well, I think, Chris, you should come back. I just think,
there we go.
You know, I think it's time for Pyne.
Time for Pyne. Time for Pyne.
Well, I wish I had $1 for everybody who told me that I should come back, Bill, but I think once you've left for good.
That's exactly
well,
right, my friend.
I'm sticking with time for Pyne. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for taking us through the wash-up, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. See you, mate. Bye. Bye. See you.